All right. Well, this is the eighth and final session for creating a culture of spiritual growth. And today we're going to kind of try to tie things together as much as possible. Maybe give a few recommendations, suggestions. I have some suggestions. So move on with this. Um, so yeah, so we started out right here where we understood that in this age of Kali, there is no other means, no other means, no other means for self-realization than chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. And then we had to ask, well, why don't we just chant the holy name, and why are we going to have, 8 classes? And in the Madhurya Kadambini, I think it's stated pretty nicely that the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, one should have no doubt that the holy name has such inestimable power to take anyone, to the full spiritual perfection. But because the holy name is unhappy with offenses committed against it, it does not manifest its complete power in the offender. So we were considering how we might be able to move past, this unsteady devotional service and go through to the steady side where we have to overcome most of our anarthas. And so why not just chant the holy name? Well, there's a question of offenses. And so we uh, we were connecting what we're talking about here, especially with the offense of pramada. And this comes from the Harinam Chintamani. We did this in the first class. Pramada means inattention or carelessness. It is from this offense that all anarthas arise. And in the Harinam Chintamani, there's 3 different types of pramada that are listed. One is just a sleepiness. We're really, really uninterested and dull. So it is, and then there's awake but distracted is the second layer. Then the one that's the least of a problem, but still a problem, is that you're not asleep, you're not distracted, but you're really not just that into it. You're chanting nicely and in some ways paying attention, but you're just not really that into it. And we connected that kind of, even though it's kind of chanting, even with some attention and chanting properly, as having a lack of this what's called in this verse bhaktya, love and devotion. Prabhupada says, if one offers me, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada translates, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or fruit, or water, I will accept it. And so there's this other element to devotional service. There's the devotion. So there's a lack of devotion when there's that other level of pramada, where there's not sleepiness, there's not distraction, but there's some bhakti missing. Or bhaktya is the word here in the 926, with bhakti. And so we mentioned that in the definition of bhakti, there are the actions, Krishna Shilanam, that's the act of chanting. But the actual definition is anukulyena Krishna Shilanam. So there's a favorable attitude towards Krishna. There's some devotion there with the service. The action has to be accompanied by the good feeling, the favorable attitude, so Prabhupada says love and devotion. There's something behind it. There's some heart behind it. That's what makes it devotion. Otherwise, it's service, but it's not devotional service. And so what we were looking at is various things that may affect, especially this enthusiasm. And the other thing, some of the things we talked about would affect our relationship with other devotees. Those are the 2 offenses we thought we were going to be dealing with in particular. And those are the 2 prominent ones, And so what we've really been, if you look at the whole, series of classes, we've really been emphasizing how we can become more aware of. And then the idea is to kind of upgrade our anukulyena. So to encounter it a little bit more, I think sometimes we don't spend, we tend to be more on the mental and the physical platform and not talking so much about the heart. And so this kind of stays a little bit in the background. it's there, but it's a little bit more in the background than it should be. And so we were trying to look at different ways we might be able to become more aware of what our that's the current state of our anukulyena, and see it in an honest way. And then how we might be able to find misconceptions and attitudes that have been kind of passed down in our society that actually may hurt the anukulyena. And then so by using that, we can upgrade our anukulyena. They may be causing us discouragement in various ways. So that's really what we've been trying to do here. So the first suggestion I have, right, if we want to really engage with the material in the series of classes, is to take time and say, do this on a regular basis. We have to at least do it initially, and then regularly, examine what your attitude towards Krishna and bhakti really is. We know what it's supposed to be, and that's a good thing to know what it's supposed to be and what it looks at like at high levels of devotion. But if we want to get there, we have to start from where we are right now. And so it's good to have us take an honest inventory of what is our anukulyena, what is our feeling toward Krishna, what is that, and what I'm suggesting is that there are some good questions we could ask that may help us with that. So a little introspection here. And so who do we think Krishna is? What's our understanding of Krishna? Right? Because this devotion is towards him. So who is he? What's he like? What's he all about? And it makes a big difference. All right? That if you're going to be engaging with any person, your opinion of them and attitude towards them, and your how you perceive their attitude towards you, it makes a big difference in how you're going to engage with them. Right? And then what is the purpose? Like we're performing devotional service, we're taking up the path of bhakti. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What do we think can come out of it? Because motivation is also very important here. What are we looking for? What do we think is possible with that? And then a third one, and we'll get with this will kind of discuss more at the end. How much do we trust Krishna? Because this will become an issue at various times. It was part of actually what I've done is I've equated that word sharanam, when Krishna says surrender unto me in Bhagavad Gita, is really what he's asking Arjuna is, do you trust me? Because Arjuna is he's faced with something he really doesn't want to have happen, and he doesn't want the battle to take place, and he certainly doesn't want to participate, and he has all these doubts about it. And Krishna, when he says to Arjuna to surrender, he's not saying obey me, because just a couple of verses before he said, think about it carefully and then do what you want to do. He's giving him freedom. Well, his advice, he says, trust me, I know what I'm doing here. I've arranged this battle. It's going to be good for everybody. Do you trust me? Even if you have to do something that's quite painful to you. Do you trust me? And so part of our developing anukulyena for Krishna is going to be our level of trust. Because things don't, just like Arjuna, things aren't always going to happen as we like. And so can we learn to trust that Krishna still has our welfare at heart, and what's happening to us is actually can be a good thing. And that's difficult to do. There's in the third verse of the Shikshashtaka, which is we're trying to reach to that level. If we want to get through the unsteady devotional service and reach steadiness, it says there's tolerance. So Krishna doesn't always do what we want him to do. He doesn't always do it that way. And so do we trust him that he really has our best interests at heart? So so how much do we trust him? Do we need Krishna to act exactly in a certain way? You know, what's our experience with him? So this is what's happening um, right now with the trusting. So these are things I think we want to look at. Okay, when we look at what is our feeling towards Krishna, they're really pertinent to the answer. And we have to be honest. We know what we're supposed to feel and supposed to think. But if we want to get to those places, we have to start here, where we are. Okay. And then I'd used this quote previously. And there's a book called The Sacred Art of Listening by this Kay Lindahl. And I think what she says here is accurate. She says, we are used to being present in our heads, our minds, our intellect. So the innermost self may take a while to surface. Take the time. Being present in our hearts leads to compassion, love, and service. So if we really want to, see where we're at on this level, it may take a little patience to listen to ourselves, to learn to listen to ourselves. We have a tendency, to suppress things because we want life to be simple. So we have a tendency not to listen to the various. All right. So anyway, so yeah, it may take us a little time to really listen to ourselves carefully and just really admit where we really are. We have a tendency to, sometimes internal stuff seems to complicate things. And so let's just keep it simple. But it's really useful for us to find out what's really in the heart there. Because those things that we're not attending to are having their effect. And so if we don't know where we're really at, then some things may be in there that we want to adjust and we want to deal with, but we're not admitting they're there. We're not aware of them, so we can't take action. So I'm saying if we don't stay connected with our internal condition, our bhakti will be less tasteful to Krishna, right? Because that's the part that's really most tasteful to him. Like in the verse, he's happy with the small little offerings as long as it's offered with real feeling. So that's the part that's really tasteful to him and important to him. And so if we're not working on that, then we're not making this tasteful for Krishna. And also we may lose our taste because there may be some things that are compromising our faith that's affecting us and we're not addressing them. Or if we focus too much just on the actions, we may think that simply by increasing the number of actions, it's going to help. And instead, and if that doesn't happen, or if we do that and we're not matching that with the feeling, then again, it becomes just like the pramada. Without the taste, it just kind of becomes mechanical in some way. So so then they become a little boring to us as well. That's where the pramada comes from. If there's no real connection with the heart, then the last pramada, where there's not sleepiness or inattentiveness, but there just isn't any zest. So my first recommendation is really try to engage with that. And and if we don't know where we stand now, not how, can we have authentic anukulyena? And how can we increase or upgrade what we have if we're not aware of where we're at? So I really think this is something that's important for us, to take a good, honest look at our situation. And then my second suggestion is interesting. I've been trying to do this actually, and I was searching for something else just today, and that had the remembrance involved. There's actually the slides coming up with that. And when I searched, I found this interesting snippet from a letter. Prabhupada wrote a letter to Balabi in 1967, and right at the top it says, while chanting Hare Krishna, You should always feel the presence of Krishna in person. We know the holy name is Krishna, and we know that the holy name, Krishna is there in the heart, right? He says in the Gita, I'm seated in everyone's heart. And for me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And then later on, he says, the Supreme Lord is situated in 1861 in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. So the Krishna is right there, actually. And he's actually interacting with us. His knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness are already happening. And here he says he's directing the wanderings. He's actually interacting with us right now. And so at least while chanting, I think it's possible to be, if we're attentive and we're present there and have a little heart space there, that it's possible to detect a presence and to feel that we're not alone there. And it's interesting that Prabhupada recommended that. So I think that's something we could add, we could try with our practice. Can we find that we feel that Krishna is there? So that's my second thing. And it's interesting because this is what I searched for, and I found that last one. It's in chapter 2 of the Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada says, when the order is that one should always remember Krishna, the prohibition is that one should never forget him. Within this simple order and prohibition, all regulative principles are found complete. He says that everything else that we do is trying to support this. This is the real goal of sadhana bhakti, to remember Krishna. And certainly if we can, at least while we're chanting, begin to feel, and then I think more often, the presence of Krishna, remembering the presence of Krishna, I think is really powerful. There's other ways you can remember things about him. And Prabhupada said that in the letter, that if you remember the personal presence, then you can remember his discussion of the Bhagavad Gita and things too. So it can go from there. But to me, if we can be aware of Krishna's presence on something of a regular basis, that it's really a powerful thing. It certainly helps remembrance, because it's not something. The remembrance is not something completely, it's concrete. It's not conceptual. I mean, of course, the Bhagavad Gita is, something you can hold and touch and read. It's substantive, but the presence of Krishna, is something really palpable. Yeah, so I'm gonna say to you that if we can experience Krishna's presence, it makes it easier to upgrade our understanding of him. Because oftentimes the kind of default setting when we have God who's all powerful, the supreme controller, the source of everything, we have a tendency to put on him attitudes that are consistent with powerful people. And we expect him to have some of that dynamic. He's the supreme controller, therefore, you have to do what he says when he says it. He's way better than you. So if you want to deal with him, you better be super, super qualified. These kinds of things. So you're really going to have to distinguish yourself. You're really going to have to prove yourself, because he's God. I mean, even regular people need you to do that. What about him? He's so much more powerful than anybody. But when we understand that Krishna is present there, he's not saying you have to be perfect, right? Because he's there. We're not perfect, and he's there in the heart, and he's making himself known. And so here in Gita 5:29, he says, a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living beings, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So here Krishna's saying, this is I'm the benefactor and well-wisher of everyone, including people like us and people much worse than us. This is a different idea. And the fact that he's present there indicates such. Okay? And then, and then Prabhupada we used this previously in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, 17, in his purport, he says, the Lord is reciprocally respondent to his devotees. When he sees the devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord, and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. So he's proactive. This is, it's really, really amazing with him. And he's, he gives you more than you give him. I mean, the whole thing, actually, if you look at it, who gains the most? If we go back to Godhead, who gains the most, us or Krishna? I mean, it's already, I do think we add some little tiny, make some contribution, add one little new spice to the soup up there. But I don't think it's, particularly noticeable. It says already it's perfect, so it makes it a little more perfect if we add our little distinctiveness to that situation, but it doesn't really move the needle. But for us, our life is completely different. So when Krishna is there, eager to help us, it's because he cares about us. It's not because it's so good for him. It's not a selfish act on his part. It's a very selfless act on his part. So it's really the reverse of all the things that, having dealt with powerful people, he's the reverse of everything. And so our attitude towards him naturally is going to be really softer. Right? So Krishna is, he's more interested in us than we are in him. The bhakti is more important to us than it is to him. What we receive is much more than we gain, much more than he does. Right? We don't need to be perfect. He's already there. Even if we're horrendously imperfect, he's ready to help us. He's not saying, prove yourself, prove yourself. He's saying, look, I'll help you. You just have, let me in. So he's so kind. So we have this tremendous, this cosmic being, and he cares for us and is kind to us. So that should soften our heart. It really should soften our heart. And so sometimes when we have this idea of, we have to become so great because we're dealing with the greatest, it hardens our heart. And it makes it hard, makes devotional service hard because we have to fight against that. Krishna's, it'll be good for us to go back to Godhead, but maybe he's not that great. It's kind of he's not that nice a guy necessarily. The other thing, if we can feel some of Krishna's presence, is we have this difficulty. One of the ways oftentimes that we come to Krishna consciousness is we say we have so much suffering here in this material world, and we want to upgrade our existence to the spiritual world instead of having life be temporary and painful and ignorant. We want to have eternity, knowledge, and bliss. And so there's something of an aversion to the world. So that makes it hard to act in the world when we just think all of the negativities there. We talked about that, that bhakti needs you to be, you don't want to be attached to the world and think this is your eternal home and you want to stay here and it's beautiful. You don't want to be too attached, but you don't want to be too averse because it just, it just is such a drag. oh, it's just such a terrible drag being here. It's hard to act in devotion with that in your face. And so if we feel that Krishna there is present with us, he's not just far away in the spiritual world, but he's there with us. He cares about us. He's concerned about us. He's helping us. We should feel more protected and more safe, and feel that our existence while we're here is meaningful if we're connected with him. It should be a cure for that. That's a side benefit I see from being able to connect with that part with Krishna's presence. And so the next thing I think might be useful to us is that if we look at and appreciate more what Krishna has done for us already and is doing for us right now. Because a lot of times we're thinking about what will happen in the future, especially if we come into that notion of trying to escape the material world and going to the spiritual world. That's kind of down the line, at somewhat down the line. And so when you're trying to attain something, I mean, if it's a really good thing, you can still have some enthusiasm for it, even though it's not there. But it's a little, you have to force it a little bit more. Keep reminding yourself, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. If we're successful, it'll be really great. So I gotta put in the hard work now. I gotta do it now. And it's a hard work that you think is worth it, and so you do it. But what if we can appreciate the fact that here Krishna is with us right now. Krishna's reached out to us. He sent his devotees. He's appeared on the earth. He's given us the scriptures. He's trying to help us right now. And he's ready to keep helping us now. So the difference in our lives because of Krishna right now is amazingly different than if we just had to live out the rest of our life and hopefully go back to Godhead. It's that Krishna is there. So we have reason to feel so grateful to Krishna right now that he's here. So instead of something that's, a little bit intangible as yet, and in the future, it's something that's tangible and present now. And that can give us some real gratitude to Krishna. We have reason to be, wow, it's amazing. Krishna is there with me. It's amazing. All right. And I thought I'd throw this thing here. I think this fits our philosophy and is said very eloquently. There's this, he's a Franciscan priest, Richard Rohr, and he's talking about Christian contemplation here. And he says, you cannot earn this God. You cannot prove yourself worthy of this God. Feeling God's presence is simply a matter of awareness. Because, Krishna has decided to be here in the heart. And if we're inclined, we can feel that presence. And it's not, and we, not only haven't we earned it, it's not earnable. Krishna is beyond, he's priceless. And worthy of Krishna, who could be? No one is Krishna's equal or even close. Certainly not us. You can argue maybe Radharani, but not us. So this should soften our heart. And when we feel like that, it's natural then to want to do something back for Krishna. It's not like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to do so many things for you, Krishna, so then you'll do this wonderful thing for me and take me back to Godhead. But look what you're doing for me now. Look what you've done for me already. I already owe you. Right? And so if we have that gratitude, the bhakti comes naturally from our hearts. Both the feeling and the actions. The actions become more heartfelt and the actions are coming. Right? Because we want to do something back. We want to reciprocate. It's a natural human thing, even unless we're really hard-hearted. Right? And so that's, Prabhupada talked a little bit about that, how the service can come a bit spontaneously. So spontaneous means it just comes from the heart. It's not because there's, okay, you want to attain such and such, here are the rules, follow these rules, and you get this thing in the future. But you've received something now that's priceless, and you want to give something back. It's a different kind of motivation. And it both contains a higher level of this anukulya and a good feeling towards Krishna, so it's more tasteful, and it comes more naturally. So you don't lose the taste so much. It has some spontaneity to it. The next suggestion is, we all oftentimes have a lot of trouble with the fact that we are so imperfect, and so we should work on understanding how Krishna accepts us warts and all. As we talked about a couple times ago, how bhakti actually, and with Krishna's help, actually purifies us. That bhakti sprouts in an unclean place. So can we be secure knowing that Krishna has always been in our hearts and will always be in our hearts, will always be available to us, will always be our well-wisher, regardless of everything. So be secure enough in our own worth, despite all the difficulties, all the unpleasant things that we have in us, to be authentic and not feel as though we need to pretend. We would like to be better than we are. But the best way to do that is to be who we are right now, and rather than trying to pretend to be something else. Pretending doesn't do us any good. Doesn't do us any good. So how can we, have the level of devotion that we have, act in the way that we can, have some compassion for ourselves. We don't want to, we want to grow. We don't want to have all the negativities remain. It's not like that. But that this is what it is. This is what happens in just in the material world, and especially in Kali Yuga. And an important byproduct of that authenticity is that we can become more compassionate towards ourselves and others. And this deals, of course, with the big time with the offenses against devotees. If we're really insecure about ourselves and feel a need to not recognize that, or we feel really terrible about that, then oftentimes we want to tear other people down. We want to find that, hey, they're worse than me. Look at all the faults that they have. We talked about different, compensating mechanisms we have that are almost all troublesome. So if we can feel a little bit of Krishna's compassion on us, and that's enough for us to continue to be authentic and feel secure enough to be authentic and to move forward, then we can also see others with a more compassionate way. Otherwise, if we feel that we're so unworthy, we need to bring other people down to our level or below. If we're hard on ourselves, we'll be hard on others. So really, being comfortable to be able to say, this is what I am. I don't want to stay this way. I need help from Krishna also in order to do it. But let me at least move towards Krishna with whatever I can do authentically. And I know Krishna can help me. And I know that the power of the practice is very powerful. The holy name is so powerful. That's also Krishna's help. And that things can improve. But if we're not aware of the, sometimes we don't even want to see the negativities inside ourselves, because we'll feel again that we are unworthy, but Krishna accepts us. And so therefore we're worthy. We'll always be unworthy of Krishna, but we're not rejected by Krishna. And so therefore we can say, okay, Krishna is here with me. I can be this way and still move forward. I don't have to be better than I am. Even when I can't be, I only can be what I am right now. And by being that way and engaging properly, and then things can improve. But when we feel that we're failures, and it's a horrible situation, that I really would be rejected if Krishna only knew me. Well, Krishna knows you through and through. So this changes our behavior, towards us and also the devotees. having the courage to be secure in our imperfections. Wow, yes, wanting to move forward, definitely. Not complacent in our imperfections. And then I guess the other thing I would say is the trust thing. Because we can feel grateful, we can feel the connection with Krishna, but generally, we have this notion that Krishna is the supreme controller. He can make anything happen he wants. And he's our well-wisher, right? And we're being connected with him. So usually if it's not spoken, it's at least unspoken, probably spoken, that Krishna is going to smooth our path in this life. And if he doesn't, we, wonder, is he asleep at the wheel? Does he care? What's the problem? Does he not? Is he angry with us? What's going on? So what we see in the scriptures is that devotees are oftentimes put into difficult circumstances. It's a fact. We see it with the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were coming to see Bhishma, when he was lying on his bed of arrows after the battle of Kurukshetra, he was in tears, thinking of all the trials and tribulations they had to go through, and then this whole battle. Because Yudhishthira was coming there because he was so upset. In the beginning of the battle, Arjuna was so upset. The end, Yudhishthira was so upset that all these people had to die just for me to be king. How selfish can I be to allow that to happen? And so he was inconsolable. And so Krishna, said, you have to come to see Bhishma Dev. And even in the spiritual world, if you look at it, because we're actually not, we're devotion people and intensity of love and feeling people, not so much peace people. Peace is there when you merge into the Brahma Jyoti, or there's the Shantaras, the peaceful places where people can enjoy the power, the opulence, and the happiness of the spiritual world. But we're thinking about being connected with Krishna's Leela, and in there it's all adventure, because there's tremendous intensity of feeling. Peace is nice, especially compared to here, but it's not intense. We talk about intense peace, right? So the love and connection we have, and even in the spiritual world, takes a richness of and a variety of experience that's quite intense. If you just look at it, even in the Krishna book, I think Prabhupada says that Mother Yashoda, when Krishna was a baby, was always in anxiety. She wasn't in peace. And you see, suddenly this huge whirlwind demon comes, and they don't even know it's a demon, but a whirlwind comes and just takes him up off the ground. There's dust everywhere. They can't see if he's been taken or where he is or what's happening. And all the women are crawling on the ground trying to see if Krishna's there, or whether the wind took him away. It's like the worst fear you could have as a mother. Later, and many other times, and there's she sees him there with Kaliya, the serpent Kaliya has his poison, all these poisonous heads, and he's got him wrapped in his coils. So if you were on Earth, it'd be like years and years of psychotherapy just for those two traumatic experiences to happen. It's like, it's not what she had in mind. But what happens whenever those experiences are, there's a deeper connection with Krishna. When Krishna comes back after being taken into the sky, or when he ends up escaping the coils of Kaliya, then the love and attachment just grow from her. Oh, it's so wonderful. When Kamsa's father-in-law Jarasandha, he was really kind of the muscle for Kamsa. he conquered all these various kingdoms, and they were devotees. These kings were devotees, and he locked them away. They were starving, mistreated, and they were praying and praying and praying to Krishna, and he didn't come for a long time. And finally he walks through the door. Right? So when he saves them, oh, they already were attached to him. They're praying to him, even in the difficulty. But then when he comes to the door, it's such deepness. Right? So sometimes, it's difficult for us when things happen that are unpleasant, because we don't want that. We want peace, and we haven't understood yet, that such things can actually deepen the connection. And that's when we'll lose some trust in Krishna. Can we really believe that he's there with us, that he's there to help us, and that what he's doing, just like he told Arjuna, trust me. Surrender to me meant trust me. I know what I'm doing here. And what happened was beautiful, actually, because, Duryodhana, okay, he was doing okay as a king, but look, he's willing to kill his own family for the throne. How is he going to take care of the people in his kingdom? Is he going to care about them? No way. Krishna had the whole idea from the beginning when he appeared, that he needed to reduce the amount of military forces. So there was too much military force on the earth, and there's just too much fighting and destruction because of that. So he wanted to get rid of those. He wanted to reduce the number of Kshatriyas, or that was part of his plan for the earth. He wanted to put Yudhisthira, who's a pious, a saintly king, or Rajarshi, on the throne. And of course, the effect of that was beautiful. The world was, it was just like, it was almost just like when Ramachandra was present, the same kind of description. It's beautiful. And because Krishna was on the battlefield, the people that died got liberation. So that they benefited by dying. Krishna has when Krishna does something, that helps everybody. And so he told Krishna, trust me, trust me. And so if we get put into danger, sometimes or into trouble, it will rock our trust. That's why so there's that tolerance there in the third verse of the Shikshastakam. So can we trust Krishna? Can we come to a higher level of trust that says, okay, somehow or other, this is to make me, be more attached to Krishna, take more shelter in him, trust him more. That actually it's happening. So the trust is a huge issue with us moving forward. We want peace. We tend to want peace. We don't yet appreciate high levels of love. And so we just think, oh, Krishna, can we just make it easy? And, but it's the depth of trust that causes the real powerful growth. And so this is something that we have to think about. We'll see sometimes when Krishna reciprocates when we're in trouble. Can we build our trust a bit? Like this is a big issue for us. So, guys, those are some of the things. We're kind of running out of time. Those are the kind of things I maybe we can take away from. We can't summarize everything from all 7 different other classes, or all 6 other classes, but these, I think, are like kind of really good starting points if we want to kind of upgrade our Anukulyena and deepen our connection with Krishna. I think this is what's going to be necessary for us to go through the unstudied bhajana kriya devotional service and reach that steady platform. So these are based on what we've talked about. These are my suggestions. So anyway, so we'll stop here, and if there's any comments or questions, that was we lost some people from the internet outage. Sorry about that, but it was beyond my control. The rain just started just before.
Satindra here. I just want to thank you for this class. I had a little apprehension before we started, but this turned out to be super excellent. So thank you so much. And I can wish that we would have more and more and more of these classes with you, and hopefully in the future we will. But one of my questions is, you talked a lot about trusting Krishna. And, obviously I have my own trust in Krishna and so forth, but how can a person trust someone they've never kind of experienced or seen as if we see a real person, your mother, father, someone on the TV, they exist. How do you trust someone that is just written about, spoken about, and some of that nature?
Well, I think because we do experience him, even in some ways we experience him, just by the holy name and by the presence of and the deity, and we hear about him, and the hearing there in some ways opens our hearts. And we've seen some change in our lives because of Krishna. I think everybody has to some degree, and so it is a little harder, because he's in the background. We don't see him face to face, and we're not able to talk to him about it exactly. Like, hey, why did you do this? What happened here? So it is. So that's why it's something that has